Sean McVay had a lot to say at his end-of-the-year press conference. He had some very interesting comments about the future of Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Also, could we see an extension coming for Kyren Williams? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor. Join the fastest growing Rams YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and if you really want to support the channel, hit the like button. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. 24/7 Sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today I'm flying solo. Travis will be back tomorrow, but we've got a jam-packed show. We've got our big takeaways from Sean McVay's end of the season press conference, some juicy nuggets from that, some things that he discussed that could have a major impact on the Rams offseason. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. So first things first, I'll get it out of my system. Just watching the Eagles absolutely destroy the Commanders definitely made me feel some type of way. I can say it wholeheartedly now. I truly believe if the Rams find some way to pull off that upset and Bo Limmer finds some way to stop Jalen Carter, or Matthew Stafford hits Tyler Higbee over the middle, they find a way to punch in the end zone and get that one, then I think right now, tonight, we'd be talking about the Rams going to the Super Bowl. Now, the Commanders wouldn't have been an easy team to beat, but I do have a lot of confidence in this Rams team potentially playing at home. That's definitely going to be a loss that we're going to be thinking about for a while. Could have been Matthew Stafford, could have been America's only hope to stop Patrick Mahomes and the three-peat. I will say, too, you got to feel for that Bills team, that Buffalo Bills team that just cannot get over the hump in the AFC. Patrick Mahomes just owns their soul. At this point, I'm starting to think that Josh Allen is almost a character in Patrick Mahomes' Last Dance documentary one day, and makes you wonder how those 90s NBA players felt. Almost feels like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, they're the Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, the Reggie Miller, those type of players that just can't find a way to get past Mahomes in the AFC. But hey, it should be a good one, Eagles versus Chiefs. But let's talk about the Rams, because Sean McVay, he spoke to reporters, and he told us a lot of very interesting things about how the season wrapped up. And I got my big takeaways from Sean McVay's end-of-season press conference. And the biggest one is about Matthew Stafford and his comments about the Rams quarterback, that could he be back? Could he be gone? What's the latest? Well, this is what Sean McVay had to say. He said, I think sooner than later, to be able to get that clarity, understanding clear, open and honest communication, he said, I think there's a lot of love coming from us. I think there's a lot of appreciation coming from his part as well. I think a lot sooner than later is an ideal scenario. I think the appropriate thing is, let's let the emotions settle. Matthew and I have talked. He knows how important he is to me and to our football team. I thought it was a great dialogue. So really the takeaway there is that he wants to know sooner than later, that there is some urgency there with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. And we know that, hey, that how these guys feel about each other, it's nothing but the utmost level of respect, okay? But this is what he said to further that point. He goes, we don't want this thing to have to go that on again. We don't want to have that go on again where you are having some type of just holdout, just miscommunication, just waiting for a restructure. And basically the way his contract was is they moved all the guarantees and they moved it to this season. So essentially it was on basically a $40 million deal for the 2024 season, and you don't have all that guaranteed money in the future. So basically both sides have the option and the ability to really go their separate ways at this point. I mean, we've done tons of in-depth breakdowns on Stafford's contract situation, but that's basically what it was, is that they have that ability to do just that if they want to go that direction. And Stafford, he gave up his 2025 guarantees. The two sides, they restructured that deal in July. They moved with the money to the 2024 season. And what they did was they made a $12.5 million signing bonus and a $23.5 million guarantee salary. So I think when you look at that, that pretty much was, hey, let's see how the season plays out. Let's see how things work out with the organization, the direction we're heading in. And then if both sides feel like they want to move forward together, they can get back to the negotiating table. I still think that you could bring Matthew Stafford back on a deal even close to $100 million potentially. I mean, at his age, if he stays healthy, you give him a good offensive line and put weapons around him, Matthew Stafford can still compete at the highest level and lead you to a Super Bowl. Right now, Matthew Stafford, he's the 16th highest paid quarterback heading into the 2025 season. He's behind Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, Derek Carr, Geno Smith. A lot of guys that are not better quarterbacks than he is. And you look at the fact that there's almost no guaranteed money heading into 2025. It's very obvious what's in play right here. So if he wants to continue his career, there's no doubt about it. 100% with a bullet, the best thing to do is bring back Matthew Stafford. And I think that Sean McVay, by his comments, that's an indication that he is certainly the conductor of the, hey, let's bring back Matthew Stafford back and let's figure out a contract that makes a lot of sense for both sides. Because, sure, there's some Justin Fields. I've seen names thrown around, right? You could go years without finding a quarterback. And with the way this defense has emerged, with how quickly this young talent has developed, with how well you've hit on your draft picks, Jared Verse, Braden Fiske, Kobe Turner playing like an elite pass rusher already. Just the way that things have worked out on the drafting side makes you believe that, hey, you add a weapon here, you add a quality depth piece here. With your whiffs that you've had, yes, Jonah Jackson has been a whiff, right? That sets you back a little bit, but I do personally believe that there's no doubt about it that they want Matthew Stafford back, and it makes the most sense for this organization. Because like I said, I mean, just go ask the Miami Dolphins. Go ask teams out there that haven't had any stability or any Super Bowls. It's very, very different to be able to go out there. Who's available, right? Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, right? I mean, Matthew Stafford, talent-wise, he's that guy. Leadership-wise, he's that guy. And there's clearly a lot left in the tank. So I would be absolutely shocked if he wasn't back, and I would be absolutely livid if they didn't bring him back. So I expect Matthew Stafford to be the Rams quarterback in 2025. Now, I don't think the same thing can be said about Cooper Kupp, though. And we'll talk about that next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. How it works: post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag HireFrame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. And hey, yes, the season's over, but the fun is just beginning. Championship teams are made in the offseason. They're made in the draft. So, hey, go on this journey with us, the journey of Rams football. Join the Everyday Listeners Club. Watch or listen to every single episode, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Okay, let's talk some Cooper Kupp. This is a sensitive subject. You guys know how much I love Cooper Kupp. You know I want to see him finish his career with the Rams, but it's up in the air, and Cooper Kupp knows that. I think the organization realizes it's a possibility, but here's what McVay had to say about Cooper Kupp. He was asked about the possibility of him returning and where he stands with him, and he said it's the same thing, and quote, what's the best thing for the Rams football team moving into 2025? I think how he feels is honest about the situation. I think he's been very clear and upfront. I respect that. What's unique is you go through 8 years of this, there are certain people that you come across. Cooper has changed my life for the better. He's made an impact on me, most importantly as a person. What he's done as a player is incredibly amazing in regard to the production, but also he's been so important in terms of a lot of the things that we've been able to build with what he represents as a captain. The production. These things are very real, and you try to say it's business and it's personal. It all blends together because this is still a relationship. I think he's honest about the situation. I think those are the things that make it challenging. One of the things that I've learned from him as much as anybody is there's no good way to go about a hard conversation other than just straight to the point. If you really love somebody enough, then you're able to be honest and direct with them. He's always done that with me. That's what I've done with him. We'll be able to figure out what's the best way to navigate that moving forward. By the way, I know that was a lot, and I feel like almost Sean McVay was just rambling a little bit just because it feels a little uncomfortable talking about the Cooper Kupp situation just because it is somewhat of a potentially tenuous situation between them because Cooper Kupp will be owed $20 million in 2025. So that's a lot for a guy that misses a lot of time the last 3 seasons. It's a lot for a guy that really is as low as 49th when it comes to receiving yards this season, right? I mean, as far as overall production, he certainly does not warrant that level of contract. Now, could they trade Cooper Kupp? I don't know if you saw this by Mike Florio, but he kind of threw out some wild trade proposals that didn't really make that much sense because of the roster bonuses and his $12.5 million base salary. So basically, the Rams either are going to release Kupp or he's going to agree to give some of the money back so that he can stay on the team. That's what's going to happen with Cooper Kupp. Either they release him or he takes a pay cut because players don't really give money back. That's not really what happens. And even if Kupp doesn't gain more interest on the open market for potential teams, he could potentially negotiate a different contract. Now, for the most part, Snead is probably going to release Cooper Kupp before that $7.5 million roster bonus is due on March 19th. Maybe. That's probably, you'd have to believe, based on, unless they really love the person, unless they really think the culture, everything he brings makes a lot of sense, you would have to assume they're probably going to find some way out of that because the roster bonus is that, the $12.5 million base salary. I mean, $20 million for a guy that won't get close to that in free agency is not good business. So I personally think that hopefully he can come back on a much lesser contract, and so he can stay with the Los Angeles Rams. But think about some of the other names that are kind of in that conversation. I mean, guys like Stephon Diggs with the Texans. They traded for Stephon Diggs, and he completely redid that contract for $22 million. So what he did was kind of spread that over 5 years. Diggs was 94th in receiving yards in 2024. I mean, when receivers get to a certain age, unfortunately right now, it's definitely to the point where you just got to have hard conversations. It's not fun because you love these guys and what they've done for your organization, but they don't like to pay players for what they've done for them in the past. They want to pay them for what they think they can do for them moving forward in the future. So I think with Cooper Kupp, it's going to be a tough situation. I mean, the Rams don't want to have to pay that $7.5 million to trade him, knowing that they're probably going to get a late round pick, right? So there's that, and I just think that the Rams probably are realistic in knowing that you're not going to find teams that are going to want to pay him the $12.5 million that's on his contract for next season. So we'll see. But I think right now the honesty part is what makes sense, and I would love to see them find a way to get a deal done where he's back in some capacity. But at that price, it's just it's a lot of money for a guy that has been dealing with injuries, that from a production standpoint has just not been the guy that we saw a couple seasons ago, or even really close to that, just to be completely honest with you about that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Cooper Kupp. I think that's kind of the status right now. And other big takeaways from it is, on the positive side, the Rams are going to discuss an extension for Kyren Williams. Sean McVay said, I think that's something that definitely would be a discussion, like you mentioned, when you look at it and you have an evaluation of your roster, and it starts with those free agents or those guys that's based on their contract status. What does that look like for you moving forward? You sit down and you say, all right, let's put this puzzle together. It's an imperfect thing, but we try our best to make the best decisions for the football team. I'm really proud of the body of work that Kyren has put together, what he represents, and all the different things that we really want to be about as a football team. He's checking a lot of those boxes. I think that's certainly something that will be discussed as well. So that's great news for a guy that was a fifth-round pick. That's great news for someone that has established himself as a top 10 running back in the National Football League. So I think that's great news, that, and it really shows that this organization, they just want to pay guys what they're worth, right? They want to keep the guys in the fold that they know they still have prime years left, that they know are still pivotal parts of their offense. And really, I think Kyren Williams, you just look at his body of work, as Sean McVay mentioned, he is the workhorse back, right? He is someone that owns that backfield. They drafted Blake Corum in the third round, and a lot of people thought, hey, you're going to see a two-man game, right? You're going to see Thunder and Lightning, or just a little tag team approach, and really that wasn't the case. I mean, it was mainly Kyren Williams all season long. He played the third most snaps of any running back in the NFL. He had 1,299 yards rushing, had 14 touchdowns, did average 4.1 yards per carry, and that was down from 5 yards per carry last season. But still, I mean, you got to just look at it as this is someone that you can give the ball to. Sometimes those tough yards are that you need come at less than 4 yards, right? So he's a tough runner, and yeah, he's not as explosive as you might want for a running back. He had just 2 runs longer than 18 yards. He's not that big play guy, but he's fantastic in pass protection. He scored 16 of the Rams' 41 touchdowns this season, and he's Kyren Williams. And I think I'm really looking forward to seeing what he looks like with Blake Corum for the entire start of next season. I mean, Blake Corum really did not have the production that we expect him to have, but also didn't get the opportunities. He had just 58 carries, had 207 yards rushing, didn't have a touchdown. He had a broken forearm in the final game of the season against the Seahawks. But, yeah, you're going to bring Kyren Williams back. Cooper Kupp, kind of wait-and-see mode. Personally, I want to see Kupp back, but I just think the contract that he's on, obviously, based on the production that he's provided, is not something that is going to really excite the Rams. They're always looking to maximize value. And, I think you'll see them pay guys they want, like Matthew Stafford and Kyren Williams and Cooper Kupp. They're just going to have some tough conversations. He's going to have to figure out how badly he wants to be a Ram or if he wants to explore some other options. But coming up next, Braden Fiske, standout Rams rookie. He is going to be undergoing surgery, and we're going to talk about that next on Locked On Rams. And just like that, Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl. That's the icing on the cake. Download the app today or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, one of the big questions heading to the offseason is who needs surgery, what do the injuries look like. You're going to have that wear and tear. You're going to have guys playing through stuff, and then you'll learn pretty early on what the cost of that was. Well, right now, it's not a long list of guys, but Braden Fiske is going to undergo surgery. Sean McVay did say it's minor, it's not a huge deal, and it's going to be to repair his knee, the injury that he suffered during the Rams' playoff loss to the Eagles. McVay said there might be some minor cleanup things, but nothing immediately in regards to like, okay, we got hurt and we have to get this fixed. Braden is one. And then there might be some guys that get some cleanup things that are more precautionary and just preventative maintenance moving forward. So that to me is a major plus. I mean, it's not like some massive injury, tore his ACL or anything like that. You know, find every piece of wood in your house and knock on that, right? It's just more cleanup stuff. So that to me is encouraging, right? I think you look at the young guys on their team and how much they grew throughout the course of the season. Puka Nacua dealing with injuries and guys getting banged up. Of course, you're talking about the Blake Corum one. You're going to have a team that is going to be healthy and ready to go, and a lot of young guys, the second youngest roster in the sport heading into next season. So that's definitely a major plus. Now, other takeaways from Sean McVay's presser is the coaching staff. It really should be pretty consistent. McVay did say that game management assistant John Stryker is leaving to join Mike Vrabel's staff in New England, but so far that's the only departure. Tight ends coach Nick Caley is a candidate to join the Jets as their new offensive coordinator. Sean McVay has talked to him, and Aubrey Pleasant was interviewing with the Bears, but it looks like it's going to be pretty much intact. Sean McVay said about the current coaching staff and keeping this continuity group together and the continuity and everything they've built. McVay said, unless guys get better opportunities, we'll have the same staff next year. I don't know what to do with myself. The fact that we're not having to worry about losing guys to head coaching jobs this offseason, I feel a little weird right now. We have some really special coaches. So that's definitely a major plus. I mean, Raheem Morris going to Atlanta last offseason. You go and bring in Chris Shula. Let's enjoy Chris Shula while he's here, because another year like this and the Rams having a deep playoff run, Chris Shula is going to be a head coach. I mean, that last name alone is going to get him a job, and more importantly, how successful he is and how effective he is as a coordinator. So that to me is big. I mean, I just love the fact that, look, I said it before. I mean, Sean McVay was a guy that if you had any link, any relation, if you connect yourself to Sean McVay in any capacity, there's a good chance that you could get a job. I used to say that if you sold Sean McVay a pair of shoes, you could get a job as an equipment manager in the NFL. In some capacity, that's how big the McVay name was. You saw them connecting Kingsbury to him a couple of seasons ago, and everyone just kind of making their way through that Sean McVay coaching tree. But that's big. I mean, it really is. I think for this team to keep as many of this core coaching group together, it just speaks volumes about Sean McVay and the growth, and just guys wanting to stay here too. I mean, I think that a lot of people lose sight of that yeah, these guys want to go on to get promoted, to be coordinators and head coaches and things like that, but they also value their time working with Sean McVay because they know that once they do get that job, the more experience they have being with an elite head coach like Sean McVay, the better their performance is likely going to be when they are at their new gig. So that to me is very big. I think that's going to be understated, but that's very big for sure, is keeping these coaches intact. Quick one too. Sean McVay said that he's going to talk to Rob Havenstein about his future. He said, I talked to him quickly on Monday or whatever the day that was. It's all kind of blending together. I'll get a chance to speak with Rob. I think Rob should be proud of himself with all he did this past year. I know he missed a couple of games, but the difference between when he was in the lineup versus when he wasn't, the impact that he had with that, it's been really fun to watch him just evolve into the leader and the man that he is, and how he positively impacts and influences change in a good way. He loves football. I thought he played really productive as well this year. I thought there was a lot of an edge with him. I thought there was an edge, and there was toughness, and when there's production, that reflects in both protection and in the run game. I thought when he was in the lineup, it wasn't by coincidence that Kevin Dotson played his best games as well. I'm damn proud of Rob and what he's done. We will talk and we will see where he's at and what he's looking at. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Rob Havenstein. He has 1 year left on his contract. So, I mean, if he's looking for long-term security, a new deal, we'll see, but he's just been a rock at right tackle, and I hope to see him back with the Rams as well. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.